I think like I've actually taken kind of Saucy's role for our team from last year. Saucy was kind of like the guy that was like, okay, like we need to be like he was kind of like a disciplined caller, if that makes
Mm-hmm,
sense. Like
mm-hmm. Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another interview. This time covering VCT Americas Stage 1 for week 2 or week 3. It's week 3. Yeah. My guest at this time is Zellsis of Sentinels coming off their match against Evil Geniuses, where they came out on the winning end, thus continuing their march in said season. Zellsis, thank you so much for the opportunity for another interview. I mean, the goal was clear for this week to bounce back against Crew coming off of that loss to this week. You guys did that, so I gotta ask you, what's going through your mind?
if I'm being brutally honest, what's going through my mind is just like another day at the office. To be honest, like, I think for us, it's just I know you mentioned Crew, and I'm sure you'll mention it again. I think the match last week is just Crew shows up sometimes, and they showed they can be the best team in the world. And I think it was just like a blunder by us that we didn't show up that day. So I think what's going through my mind right now is we just have to keep trucking along and keep playing every match by match.
For sure, this is definitely the cleanest that I've seen out of this team in quite a good while. Maybe even going back into to kickoff, or maybe a little bit into that match against Under Thieves. But yeah, like that still like nevertheless, it's still a massive improvement from last week. And so like when it comes to looking at the preparation for this week and going through this performance from the previous week, what do you feel was the main focus that the team had to cover for this match?
I think for us right now is we're just finding like our consistency within our team. I think like I said last week, we kind of got owned by Crew. I can't say it was like I wish it was closer. I think we did kind of get smoked. But I think we're just in like this like inconsistent way of like how we play and everything like that, and like sometimes our confidence slash like mental gets shot a little bit when things go wrong, and I think that's something we're still working on. But I do think it is getting better. I mean it showed today. Like I think we smashed EG, and I wouldn't say EG is a bad team by any means. So yeah, I think for us it's just week by week of taking things that maybe some things we need to improve on more, like our comms or like our team play is like what we're focusing on some weeks, and then another week maybe it will be disciplined or like setups and everything like that. And I think that's like a key piece for us that we're trying to iron out each practice week. Sorry.
One thing that did return for the team, on top of the things that you mentioned just now, is the comfortability. And when I say that, I gotta ask you about the composition for Haven. To kind of set the tone for how this match would turn out. And John Cutie kind of said it in the post match interview during the broadcast about returning to comfortability. We saw Zekin return to the Neon. We saw we saw playing Cypher, John Cutie playing a little bit of Breach, and me technically still. What I want to ask you is sort of how how much of a shift did going back to the comfortness play into how you guys performed it today, in this map, and also like a little bit into map 2.
um I mean, I think comfort is a huge thing in this game. I just think the problem for us is I don't want to say we have like a role issue. It's just some maps, some people play roles differently than others that fit us better. If that makes sense. So like some maps, like for instance, you see Amin or John is on the breach, I'm on the cipher, narrates on the Sova, and then another map, maybe you'll see it swapped. I mean, I'm still on the Sentinel, but maybe you'll see like the flex role swapped, or maybe you'll see the duelist swapped and things of like that. I think a main thing for us is just we have to like find kind of the right system on each map rather than like finding the system on our team. It's not really like, because when you make a new team, you have a system for the team, and that kind of just translates to every map. I think our system is each map rather than our team. And so we're just kind of trying to find that comfortability within the roles or within the team of like the confidence on certain maps. Like Haven, like you said, we ran the ISO comp before, and then we swapped, and then now we're running I mean, I guess like default comp, if you want to call it that. I think default comp might be the ISO comp now because everyone plays it. But I think that's like the main thing for us is trying to find if we have to play like let's say we have to play a certain comp to these comforts on one map, like Haven, for example, like the ISO comp. Let's say we have to play towards like our duelist strengths, or let's say we're playing heavily towards our initiator strengths. Like, I just think we have to go each map by like that, and then play matches on it, figure out if it works or not. Because obviously scrims are just scrims. Like, you get to a match, you face new things, you face new challenges. So I think finding that self in matches and then having to switch on or off, I think that's like a big key for us.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one dimension that the team is still kind of like working on currently. And, obviously, like looking into the team's form, this is not the kind of final form that you guys want to be in right now. It's a gradual process that is very long term. And, hopefully this kind of continues this step towards that journey. And so, one other thing that I want to ask you is sort of like one thing that I asked Bang last week when you guys were coming off of that match against Crew, and one of the things that he kind of mentioned that kind of plays into what you just said in the answer is the hesitation, and how that kind of played into the team's eventual result against Crew on the losing end, all that stuff, playing into how the team has been trying to figure out their way of playing, figure out how they play a given map, figuring out their identity. How have you guys been trying to resolve the hesitancy that has kind of affected you guys in certain occasions so far this year?
I think just like telling people, like, when they have an idea or they have a plan like in their head, just like say it out loud and then everyone kind of follow it. Because I think like the biggest thing for us is like, or like when we started the team, we kind of had like too many cooks in the kitchen. Whereas like, you don't want everyone speaking. Like, you want some listeners, then you want some talkers. I think that was like a huge problem for us when we first started the team, and we kind of worked on it. I think we've gotten so much better than when we first started. But I still think we have that thing sometimes when like we're on the stage, or like the pressure gets to us a little bit, or nerves. I don't really know what it is. But we still have the thing where like sometimes someone will have an idea, but they're kind of waiting for someone else to say their idea rather than just doing theirs. So like they're thinking about their idea and not saying it, rather than if they just had their idea and said it, then everyone could either, one, choose to follow it, or two, choose to come up with another idea. And then that person's not thinking about their idea. So then they can kind of just shoot their gun and play the game. And we're working on it. I mean, I think it's getting better, and I think we've definitely improved on it. I think the biggest thing for us is like when I talked about like what we're working on in our scrim weeks, this has been like a key focus for us in our scrim weeks, is just, all right, if someone says a plan, everyone follow it, and we're just going to do it to the best of our ability. If we believe, we believe. And it'll most likely, even if it's a bad play, but all 5 of you believe in the play that's called and you do it instantly, then like, it has a higher chance of working. So I think that's like the biggest thing for us, and something we've been working on since the start. But I've seen, or I feel like we have improved immensely on it. So we just have to keep working on it.
I mean, where do you kind of fit into the kind of or more so, where do you kind of fit into the communication of the communication aspect of the team when it comes to figuring out, w- how you guys can play together in a much more cohesive fashion? Because, of course, by this point, everybody knows you as the hype man, the energy guy, and one that kind of sets the tone for how a team should kind of compose themselves in a match. Communication, like little jokes, stuff of that nature. And so, on top of just me asking you where do you kind of fit in this dynamic, this ongoing dynamic of the communication aspect, how does it compare to last year, in which you had a clear hierarchy in terms of like comms, in which you had like Sassy up top, and then John Cutie, and then also yourself in the middle, and also Tense, and then Zekin would be in like near the bottom, just doing the duels, doing his own usual thing. So how do you kind of look at the dynamic where you kind of affect that dynamic, and the comparison between last year and this year?
Um, I think I've actually, I mean, I think like I've actually taken kind of Saucy's role for our team from last year. I think I think because like I think I was one of our more vocal players last year, like even sometimes over John. Like John was like our freeze time IGL caller, and he always had final say. But he would like give me reins to like give a mid round, and we would kind of just follow it. And Saucy was kind of like the guy that was like, okay, like we need to be like, he was kind of like a disciplined caller, if that makes sense. Like he would call, like he would be like, if a team was doing this, he would like make sure, like let's say we called like a default, he would make sure that like people in the default were like, because they were in the pack, right? Like there was a lot of times Tens, Zekin, and Saucy were in the pack, so he would be kind of the guy that was like, okay guys, we need to like be doing XYZ because this is how we've gone over it in the server. That was like kind of his like calling. And I think that's kind of like where I'm at right now. I don't really do a lot of our mid-round calling anymore. Like we're trying to get we're trying to have it just be John and Narrate doing a lot of that because they're in the pack. Whereas last year I was more in the pack and now I'm not. I'm kind of on the lurk. So I still have like ideas and like I'll call for like things off my lurk or like what I'm seeing. Like I still do that stuff and I'll still be like, all right, like there's 3 here, like any example, there's like 3 here with abilities, like just go the other side, just slam the other side, like things like simple things like that. But I don't really have like the quick, like I don't really do the quick mid rounding that I did last year just because I'm not in the pack anymore. I'm now on the Sentinel lurk role. And so that's mainly it's up to like John and Narrate now, or I guess like Zekin and Bang, like they're all like kind of including their own little ideas. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
no,
yeah,
in a way it does, because like it gives me a sense of like the comparison between where you are right now and back then, and how that kind of plays into the issues that has been affecting the team this year, because like you have the changing like dynamic in communications, and that kind of leads to a struggling process of having to come to grips to how to like manage yourself, in not doing a thing that you're not supposed to do, and doing things that you are able to do but you're not really kind of 100% comfortable in it, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So in a way it gives an interesting insight into what's going on within the team, on that aspect. And so one more question, let me just check if I have time. Yeah, no, well, I want to squeeze in one more question. Hopefully you can answer as quick as you can. You made a clear quote at the end of Masters, of the team's Masters run, about how you guys have no identity. And so after the 3rd week of Americas, do you feel like this team has an identity? And if so, how would you kind of describe it, like in less than 5 words?
I definitely think we have our identity. I would describe it in like young, confident, and believing in the system. That's what I would say. Young, confident, believe in the system. 6 words.
Right, believe in the system. Yeah, you kind of said 6, but believing
Yeah,
the system. Yeah, there you go.
believe in the
Okay.
system. There you go. 5.
Yeah, of course. Trusting the process can be a good way to describe Sentinels, and hopefully you guys can continue trusting in said process and continue to improve it in from now until end of the season. So, Zellsis, thank you so much for the interview. I really appreciate the insight you've given us for the team, and of course, best of luck on the road ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.